So a lot of people get like estate plan confused with wills, right? They think that a will is all they need and that's everything. But an estate plan is much more comprehensive than that. It is not only your planning document, which would be potentially a will or trust level planning, but it also includes all of your stuff that's there to protect you during your own life. So powers of attorney, medical directives like a living will and medical power of attorney, Medical Privacy Act authorization under HIPAA, dementia directives. It also could include final disposition documents to make sure that your wishes are carried out if you want to be cremated or buried or where you want your ashes to be deposited after that. So that's all part of an estate plan. So it's protecting you during life, but also having a plan to distribute assets post-death. So if somebody only has a will, a few things happen. One, their estate, their assets, their liabilities would have to go through the probate process to be determined, as far as where they go and who's authorized to deal with that. That's not always true, but for most people it is. So people that own real estate, potentially vehicles, and financial accounts, which most people do, that requires a probate process. So that's likely to happen. The other issue with just a will is that if you become incapacitated, there's nothing set up to make sure that you still have access to your funds, your financial accounts, make sure that you're protected and watched out for and taken care of properly. So with a will only, that does not exist. So that you're kind of running the risk of exposing yourself to what's called living probate or adult guardianship or conservatorship proceedings with the local court system. Now, the will itself controls who gets to take care of it. So in the will, it nominates a representative. Likely that would be the spouse, right? But it doesn't have to be. But that's not an automatic authority. So the spouse, just because they're named in a will, can't just go take care of stuff in your name. They still have to go through the probate process to clear that up. Mm-hmm. Now, if it's a joint account or owned together, that's a little bit different. They would have access to that. But for example, property, to clear your name off of a house, they would have to go through some form of probate, which for a spouse is usually called summary administration. So they wouldn't have the right to make decisions automatically. So they would have to go through the guardianship and conservatorship process and petition to become your guardian and conservator in order to have that legal authority to do that. So when somebody doesn't have powers of attorney, so that's kind of what we're talking about, that's what they have to do. So a power of attorney can fix that, make it so they don't have to go through that process, but with nothing, they have to do that. So then at that point, the court is in control, at least from a supervisory perspective, of you as a person and also your finances. They would not be able to ask about your condition. So a nurse or a doctor, a medical facility should not disclose information to them unless you have signed an authorization to allow that. Now, visiting the hospital is going to depend on the hospital's policy at the time, because like with COVID, these hospitals were in lockdown, they were not allowing visitors. And so even if you wanted a visitor, you were not going to get one. Now, if they're operating under traditional hospital rules, then yes, you could probably go visit them. But that doesn't mean you'll have access to information. But if the person that's in the hospital has not authorized access to the information, they're not supposed to disclose it. So yeah, estate planning can include trust planning, and it's not for people that have a lot of money. That's a common misconception. I mean, that's because we hear about the people back east with these big trust funds that they've lived off of for 100 years. But that is a form of trust planning, of course. But people can, without even a lot of money, can really benefit from trust planning, and that's through probate avoidance. So if you own land, real estate, you have to go through probate. So if it's in a trust, you can actually avoid that and eliminate that cost. So it does save you and your estate money on the back end, $3,000 to $10,000 or whatever that you end up getting charged, and so that does eliminate that. So trust planning is still available for a lot of reasons beyond just wealth. So there are control issues sometimes, special needs issues that could come up if you got an heir or a child that has a special needs issue or a disability issue. So there's just a lot of different other reasons why trust planning does benefit people. So adult children can still benefit from trust planning. Usually it's through, I call it responsible wealth transfer, right? Like you may not want an adult child to have all the money in one lump sum. You may want that broken up into different segments or different amounts. You may want to control it for a dynasty type trust where it exists throughout their lifetime and they get access to it, over a longer period of time. So those are some reasons why you want to control how an adult child gets it. And you may have one child that's responsible and one that's not. And so you may treat them differently too. You may say, hey, child A, you can have it because I'm not worried about you, but child B, we're going to control over time how you get the money. The other thing that's beneficial for adult children is spendthrift provisions. So what that means is the trustee can have discretion on when and how to give them money. So if they're having issues in their life, like substance abuse issues, disability issues, divorce issues, things like that, the trustee could actually protect the money for that adult child until some of that stuff gets resolved. Estate planning is beneficial for everybody, no matter what stage of life you're in. Even younger people, protecting their kids through estate planning is important. So if something happened to them, they could make sure their kids are taken care of the way they want them to. And then, of course, as people age, you get more into, hey, what happens if I become incapacitated? I have Alzheimer's or dementia. How do I make sure to protect that? And even protect assets, potentially from like a Medicaid or other creditor claims. So that's, I guess, the answer to that is estate planning is actually for everybody, no matter what point of life they're in. The reasons behind it may be a little bit different. Like the purpose of it may be a little different, but it's still there for everybody.